everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get Celebritized, where I bring on amazing guests from all walks of life to help share with you the nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty of how you can earn more, so you can live more, so you can give back more. So tonight is no different. Tonight I've got two guests for you, and my very first one is such a brilliant person. He's one of the smartest people that I've had the pleasure of meeting in the last couple of months. And I'm so excited to bring him to you because he's full of wisdom and stories. And just don't go anywhere because you're going to want to hear Brad Caldwell. He is an amazing, amazing entrepreneur. He's got a great story and he sings too. Maybe we can get him to sing. So anyway, Brad Caldwell is a brand strategist, marketing consultant, national speaker, and multiple time CEO. With years of experience in multiple industries, Brad brings clarity and solutions to the pain points of businesses. And oh, yes, he does. I have experienced that myself. But he's a business leader. He brings pain points solutions to business leaders, consumers through brand honoring analysis, marketing research, and integrated brand strategy. I told you, he's one of the smartest people I know. So let's get him up here because he's not boring. So you're going to love Brad Caldwell. Come on down. Woo!
Hey there, friend. How are you?
I'm great, Brad. Thank you so much for being on the show. We spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's been a couple of months now, and you were just so full of business wisdom. I said, my audience really needs to hear this. In 2022, so many people are trying to pivot, figure things out, and you were just such a wealth of wisdom and ideas. So here you are. Tell the viewers and the listeners a little about you first, and then we'll get into some nitty gritty, how they can be successful as well.
Yeah, sure. I am. So my company, my marketing agency is Spark, and it's a 3-year-old agency in North Carolina. We work with marketing and branding for businesses of every shape and size and industry. We're kind of all over the place that way. We're in sports and medicine, home services, a lot of trade. Here recently, we've been in a lot more tech, which is a fun space to enter into because we get to learn a lot. I also own an apparel company, or I'm the CEO of an apparel company and one of the partners, and I do a couple of other fun things.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, married to my lovely wife, Grace. We've been married almost 15 years, and we have 3 sons, Parker, Elliot, and Benjamin, and they are wonderful and nuts. All of us.
As they should be. And I know your wife has a birthday coming up, so happy birthday to her.
That's right. Her birthday is tomorrow, and we get to celebrate her. She better not be watching because she's a critical care nurse, and she's at the hospital right now. So if she's watching, then everything's fine at the hospital. So we'll hope she's not getting a sneak peek of what's happening tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, thank her for her service. I absolutely love nurses. I'm a, cancer survivor, and nurses got me through it all. I've always said nurses and teachers need to be the highest paid people on earth, and policemen and firemen and just everybody that cares for us. And those nurses work day in and day out. Doctors did what they do, but those nurses are with us in the trenches. So thank God for nurses. Thank her, please. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. You're very multi-talented, Brad, and you're very smart. You've got a very interesting background too. You used to do something in your past as well. Can you tell us what that was?
Well, I've done too many things. So before I owned the agency, I worked for an agency out of the Seattle, Washington area. That's where we lived. And then before that, I spent 4 or 5 years at Chick-fil-A doing hospitality and marketing stuff for them. And then before that, I was a pastor. So I was a pastor in 2010. Yep.
Yeah, and when you said that, you gave me such great, I love my faith, and I love people that you still walk by faith, even though your career went a different direction. You were so, enlightening on our conversation. You had such great, wisdom in your faith as well, which I said intertwined in it. So I really loved that. And so without any further ado, let's talk about what's happening now in 2022 for businesses. Tell us a little bit about how people are thriving, how they're making it through, and maybe some ideas and suggestions on how people can find their way if they feel like they're a little lost. Because when you and I talked, I was a little lost myself. I'm like, I just don't feel like I'm fitting in this square peg, this circle hole, or whatever it was. Something was missing.
Yeah. First, thriving is a great word. I like that.
Yeah, I use that after my cancer. So I'm Mr.
No. I
Thriver.
like that. First
Thank
time you said it, I thought you said it wrong. Second time, no, that's on purpose.
It's a thing.
No, it's good. I like it a lot.
Thanks.
I think there are fundamentally three things that we all are pursuing, and it's really simple to find them. It's kind of like being able to see the path out in front of you and still not knowing quite how to get through the thicket in order to get to that thing you can clearly see. So the first thing, I went to college and studied philosophy. That was a long time ago.
You've done a lot.
One of the things they teach you in philosophy is everybody presupposes something. And when you presuppose something, that means you wake up in the morning with some truth. Whatever your truth is. For people who are Christians, it's Jesus. For people who are of other faiths, it's whatever that deity kind of says is a part of the compromise of faith. You believe that you need to do something today to earn, or you need to be a certain way because we all believe, like we presuppose when we go to bed at night that we'll wake up in the morning. It's a fundamental truth. You don't think about it. You just do it. There are things that are by nature what we think are just natural and always going to happen, and they're not by nature. We presuppose those things. And so, like, I presuppose my wife's going to love me in the morning. It's her birthday, so it's almost a stone cold lock. It's almost an absolute.
Depends what you got her, Brad. Depends what you got her.
Now, how I do on Thursday determine if she loves me on Friday.
Perfect.
But so we presuppose some things, and I think owning whatever your core truths are is so fundamentally important. It's a part of self-discovery to find out what you believe. For the person of faith, you will either have one of two tensions. Every Christian should walk in between one of two tensions: legalism or license. Legalism is all the law and none of the love. And license is all the love and none of the law. License, you can go anywhere you want and do anything you want because God is love and it's okay. The law is no, but there's rules to the game. We don't know what love is, but here's the rules. And it's trying to figure out how to navigate those two things. Well, you can't navigate them if you don't know what your truths are. And so the very first thing is to presuppose some stuff. And then I think the second thing is authenticity. I'm actually writing a book on authenticity right now. And it essentially says there's one formula for authenticity. And it's wherever your belief and your behavior intersect. That's when you're most authentic. Because authenticity is not by nature good. It's not a good thing. It's just an authentic thing. So like 2-year-olds and serial killers. Both wildly authentic. Because what they believe and how they behave are completely married. Now, we don't have any of the latter downstairs, but we do have a 2-year-old downstairs. And that 2-year-old believes something and it comes out of him immediately.
Yeah.
He's
like out of the mouth of babes.
He just screams. And we're comfortable with that. We're like, well, he's little. Because what we mean is we're going to train that authenticity out of him. We're going to teach him to be polite. And polite is the opposite of authentic. We're going to teach him to respond to everything around him instead of being while everything around him is happening. And so he's going to be just a response machine because that's what we all are. So is road rage our authentic self, or is it a misalignment? Because I don't believe the person driving that car is a bad person, but my behavior is saying something otherwise. I would say in that moment, unless you truly hate that person, that's a moment of reactive inauthenticity. The way we combat that is self-awareness. Self-awareness is when we're just kind of walking around looking and saying, like, this is the situation I am in. This is what I presuppose. This is what I believe all the time, every day. And then there are things in this moment that I also believe, like a good opportunity. On a cloudy day, I believe it's going to rain, so I pack an umbrella. I don't pack an umbrella every day. I pack it based on the circumstances of the day. And that comes with self-awareness. You know what I mean?
Right. So if your 2-year-old is being authentic and having screaming or temper tantrum, and we get that out of them. So as adults, what does that mean for us? So we can be authentic. What does that look like to be authentic as an adult, but being polite and doing the things we're supposed to do?
I think one of the keys of self-awareness is to figure out if some of the things that trigger us are actually authentic things. Like if you find small children like Benjamin, our youngest, annoying because, man, they just scream whenever they want something. He's being super authentic in that moment and he doesn't know how not to be.
Right.
If you have that one person who is just constantly negative and you were to ask them what they truly believe and they believe negatively,
They're
more
being
often
authentic.
than not, we're responding to results and not the authentic nature of the thing happening around us. Well, I don't like people who are sad. I think people who are happy are on something. I don't like little kids. I don't like old people. Men are this, women are this. Every ism that we have is based on something that's generally inauthentic within us. We've created prejudices and stereotypes so we don't have to deal with other people's authenticity.
Mm.
And so what we generally do is instead of saying, well, Aurea says this and does this, this is her being authentic. Now I've seen you in a professional sense. We've been in them clubhouse streets. I've
Yep.
seen you as a mom, and I've seen you hanging out when we can, well, some of us can let our hair down. Not a gift we all have, but I've seen you in all those natures, right? So there are certain things that I know to be like, I would call you an optimist, except that I think optimism is one of those things we've created to not discuss authenticity. Because I would say when you mentioned it earlier, when you found out you had cancer, I bet there was a part of you that was just wrecked. And then there was a silver lining that you could see and you could hear. Maybe no one else could see it, no one else could hear it. And it's because at your core, one of those truths you walk into is there's joy in the morning. You just bring it with you. You just bring it. I've never seen you down. And so I imagine I would find your cancer journey mildly obnoxious because you were probably so positive.
I love the nurses. Yes, I had a good time with all my nurses.
Yeah, you had a
Great
good
friends.
time. Before this, I was at a meeting at a great restaurant. That's the setup to a good time. Not, I was at the hospital going through cancer treatments. I had a great time. Like, I love the nurses there. God bless them. Like, that's your authenticity revealing your truths. And so we can measure that by both what you say and how you live. And I just think that for most people, we don't know ourselves well enough. But the best way to know it, have you ever driven down the street and everything's been fine in the car, and then all of a sudden you heard something, or worse, you felt something? Like I guess it was 2004, 2005. I was driving down the road in an old beat up car. That's the kind of car that I had at the time. Turned out of a parking lot. Felt like I went over a little curb. No big deal.
Right.
Drove about 10 feet. And all of a sudden, it felt like I was going over a curb every 3 feet. And what had happened was that I hadn't hit anything. My car had gotten so much out of alignment that the joint that holds the tire on broke.
Oh, no.
And so the tire was just kind of wobbling around what loosely could hold onto that joint. And that's simply because when we don't address misalignment, the wheels fall off.
Oh, good analogy.
And that's what happens when we don't really understand our own authenticity.
So how does that work, Brad, then in for our entrepreneurs listening? Because you're right, we all have our authentic self, then what we've been trained to think and all that. So in a nutshell now, we're trying to be authentic ourselves. Let's just say I know people that don't like kids. I love kids. I know people that don't like pets or animals. I love pets and animals. How does that relate to us now being authentic business owners, doing what we need to do, being who we need to be, but being able to, not want to say play the game, but be able to, bridge those gaps between, those things that we don't like and being authentic to ourselves? Is there a place that we shouldn't be authentic because we have to deal with if somebody doesn't like kids or somebody doesn't like to drive or they've got to drive and they're feeling road rage, but they're not going to let it out like they would when they were 2?
Yeah. So I think in the entrepreneurial world, in the business world in general, the first test, the first measure is almost always the hardest. And I would say for all of us, it's look at the seat you're sitting in. Look what you've rested your entire business on. Like if you're selling something because you know how to make it or you know how to sell it, but you don't care, that's your ceiling. Own it. Own it. We're not all supposed to love every widget we create.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no story that Alexander Graham Bell had the telephone and then immediately started doing backflips. Franklin figured out how to harness electricity and ran around telling everybody and high-fiving people. We don't know that. I think we could look at, I'm 41, we could look at the life of the American presidents for the last 4 decades and say, clearly some of them did not enjoy that job by the time they got to leave it.
Yes.
Because that job stunk. And for
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, sometimes we get this really inauthentic view that because we believe so much, it's going to be fine. Or because we know how to so well, it's going to be fine. And that's baloney. Like that's not how anything works in the business world. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Oh, yeah.
And just because you love it doesn't mean you're going to be great at it. You know what I mean? Like there's
Exactly.
a lot of people we know that had kids that probably shouldn't have. There's a lot of people in the world who are perfectly gifted to have kids and either haven't or can't.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
Mhm.
We're not merited entrepreneurship. So if you choose it, recognize that the seat that you're sitting in, one is going to be hard work. 80% fail within 3 to 5 years.
Mhm. And hard work is great. You and I were talking earlier and again in our conversation a couple of weeks ago about, the pivot that I've had to do and that there's part of this solopreneurship that I don't like because I so love to be with people. And there's other people out there, like me that without the people piece of our life, we are like, I'm a golden retriever and it's very depressing not to physically get those hugs and shine lights on people and be with people. My whole life was events. My whole life was my Live Your Legacy Summit, bringing people together. I never thought in a million years I would not be able or allowed
Yeah.
to do a live event to help charities and nonprofits, to help entrepreneurs. All of that stopped. And I went into this pivot world of, okay, now I've got to go online and be a coach online, all that, because I can, because I have 35 years of experience in sales and speaking. Yes, I can teach that all day long. But when you and I were talking, I'm like, Brad, something's missing. I'm not happy with all this going on online and being feeling like just another coach with all the bells and whistles that go with that. It was getting hard
Yeah.
and I wasn't being authentic as to what I want to do. And so I made it my prayer to say, Lord, something's missing. And it was working with a company, working with people. Like many people know, I used to work with Mary Kay and Win Pink Cadillacs and Diamonds and Top Recruiter. I loved plugging in and then running with it. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be able to have an opportunity coming up where I'm going to be able to work with other people now, other moms, other mompreneurs. And I feel so much happier because I found that piece that was missing. So what do you want to say to other people that are feeling that maybe disconnect right now?
Well, I think about what you just said. So you assessed a misalignment within you.
Mhm.
In that misalignment, you looked at what you were doing and what you truly believe. And in that, you were like, let's be self-aware. Let's self-evaluate for a moment and say, like, I can do this thing. It zaps my joy.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And I'm not built to live in dislike. Some people can.
Yeah.
Some people like
They don't have to like their job. Sure.
we almost certainly, everybody listening almost certainly has a parent who hated their job. It
Mhm.
was a different culture and a different climate. It's not bad. They weren't wrong.
Mhm.
But there's a reason we built machines to coal mine. It's because that job sucked.
Yeah. God, for sure.
And once we could figure out how to stop doing something that nobody liked, we started pulling back the humanity from it so we could just let that job take care of itself. So what you did was evaluate. You saw a place of misalignment, you felt it, and I think that's a super key. I think most business leaders, most people into it and then ignore.
Mm.
You felt it. Like, you're a mom. Tell me you didn't either walk up to your daughter and finally get it out of her, and you were right. That gut feeling, that face she made when she walked in the door or whatever. Or you didn't say anything and found out 2 weeks later, if you'd have said something, you'd have been right.
The mother's intuition.
There's a reason we have that. For some reason, we think that the entrepreneur is supposed to just be a martyr.
Yeah.
And you're not. That's not what we're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't mission work. This isn't martyrdom. This is, hey, go out there and give it a shot. My company would not exist had my wife not essentially said, you're obnoxious when you work for other people who you disagree with. Please, for the love of God, start a company so I can enjoy my husband again. And that's not a direct quote. That's because she said it in more words than that.
I love it. And it's all right to not like pieces of your job, because as an entrepreneur, solopreneurs, you're never gonna like everything, but that's okay. But you have to like the bigger picture. You have to like where you're going and what you're into, knowing that you got to pick up the phone or do things you don't like. That's all great. But when you feel that, like you said, misalignment, that something's not right, the joy's not there, that's when you need to really look at it. But know that there's always part of the workday that you're maybe not going to like, but that's okay, because the bigger picture you love. You love the results.
I'm not administrative.
Yeah,
I'm sort of organized. I just don't enjoy it very much.
Mm-hmm.
So I have people doing that because I don't want to. In between
right now, I don't want to.
But there's that person who's like, yeah, Brad, but we made $40 last month. I can't get the VA. I can't call the person who will keep me organized. I can't do that right now. And it's a bit of a slog. And it's going to be. And it was for me for 2.5 years. I mean, it wasn't until an audio-only app came on that people really started paying attention to me on the screen side. I was usually the guy behind the brand.
Right.
And so I think you have permission to not love every moment. You do not have permission to be miserable.
That's
because
I love that.
A crutch is not a solution. That doesn't heal you. Man, that's not what crutches are for. And so for a lot, evaluate, look at the seat that you're sitting in. If you hate that line of work and you're an entrepreneur, develop an exit strategy. Like, figure it out. Figure it out. Or change it. Like, we've changed some things at our company. And we changed most of them when our company was me, just me. We were changing some stuff, and it allowed me to open up the company to a way where now I needed more people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge, and I think when more often than not, when we're misaligned, we either keep going till the wheels fall off, or we call somebody to help us adjust.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, who do you have? Who do you call? Especially in business. Like, I can't call my wife.
No, that's be somebody that's where you want to be. Somebody that's, I always say, take advice from somebody who's where you want to be in that arena. So somebody that's smarter than you, that's, that isn't like invested in you, like you said, not your wife, not your husband. It's like somebody that's, has it together. They're loving what they do. They're making their money, whatever. Call for that. If it's spiritual, like we always say, if it's spiritual and you need that spiritual, you're going to go to your pastor, your priest, or somebody. You're not going to your accountant. But if you need to, you got to go to the right people for the right pieces of advice. There is no Yoda. But on that, always in prayer, always saying, there's so many times I've just reached up and said, Lord, help. I don't know what is missing or what is wrong. Like when I did go through chemo, when I had cancer, it was a fun experience. I remember it, great memories, because the people I met, I'm still friends with my doctor to this day, 22 years later, and the nurses and all that. But the piece that almost killed me was chemo. And when I was throwing up 18 times a day, wrapped around the toilet, not knowing what to do if this was going to kill me, so many times I just prayed, Lord, help. I didn't know what to pray for. I didn't know. I just kind of like, Lord, help. And he did. And he hears our prayers. So sometimes you just have to say, Lord, help. I don't know what I need. I don't know what will make me happy. And with this pandemic, I've met a lot of people that are at that place that I don't know. I don't know if I have to go back or where is forward. They feel a little misaligned. And I just love that you came on tonight, Brad, and addressed the misalignment. Don't let the wheels fall out. And that's why I love doing this podcast, to get smart people like you on here, which is going to lead me to the last final questions in our last 3 minutes here, Brad. If you could talk to people that are feeling misaligned, give them some call to action, some strategies to fix it. I'm going to put your website up here, which is thisisbrandstrategy.com. For those listening, this is Brad Strategy, Brad Strategy. Oh, that's kind of good. This is brandstrategy.com.
Look that up. Yeah. I think it's okay to be misaligned. It's okay. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Like if you're a part of this show, you watch this show, the host of it has told me multiple times in the last few months at least that that's exactly how she's felt. And she's successful, and she is smart, and she is strong, and she can do it, and she has succeeded in industries, plural. It's okay. It's a part of the journey. It's just not okay to stay there. And so if you're going to move, first I'd slow down and realign. You got to put the wheel back on. You can't just change it in the middle of traffic. That's not how that works.
Oh my gosh, Brad, I love what you just said. I just got that visual when you talked about the tire on the wheel, misalignment, that you're right. You can't keep going down the highway and fix the tire, fix the alignment. You have to stop, fix it, and then get back on the road again. That's golden right there.
Yeah. So take a pause, because that's when you find out where you're seated. If you take a pause and you're like, I can't wait to get back to it. Well, then you love what you do.
Yeah.
If you take a pause and you immediately call, like if I'm stuck on the side of the road and it's not a tire change, I am 1,000% calling my dad. He knows everything about mechanics and I don't know anything.
So there you go.
And you have those people. I think you just have those people.
I love that, Brad. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, do they just go to thisisbrandstrategy.com and you'll talk to them? I know you have probably a free phone call. I have to tell everybody listening, when I had my phone call with Brad, because we became friends at events, and we all do this wonderful audio app called Clubhouse. It's okay to say it because it's changed all of our lives, because we have to meet new people through this pandemic. And the enlightenment that you gave me just in that time we were together, I said, you're onto something. Everybody be smart to have a conversation with you and see where it goes. This is brandstrategy.com. You have nothing to lose by letting Brad give you some insights, hear where you are, and see if he can help you, because you are really, really so super smart and such great insight, Brad. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, friend. Whole lot.
I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us, and hope to have you back sometime soon, because we are not done with helping the world and helping solopreneurs not be alone any longer and help them get where they need to be. And it's going to take more than just a one-time, here's your answer, good luck, go do it. It's going to take constant nurturing. And that's what Get Celebritized is all about, helping them, become the best known and the best successful and the best happiest, if that's a sentence, in their lives in the industry. So thank you, Brad, so much. Thank you for being here, and happy birthday to your wife. Go and presuppose she's going to keep on loving you on Friday.
Yes, ma'am. That's the plan. Have a great show.
Thank you, Brad, so much. Have a good night. This is brandstrategy.com. Look him up. He is amazing. All righty. Well, with that, we're going to go on to my next guest right now. And this one, because of scheduling conflict, I was able to pre-record this one, and I'm going to bring it on to you right now, live from the studio. None other than LJ Thomas. Here she comes. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get Celebritized, where I bring on the most amazing guests that help you realize that you can be all that you need to be today, over, under, around, or through whatever obstacles may be happening or may happen in the future, so you can learn how you can earn more, so you can live more, so you can give back more. Because you know what? There's so many causes and charities and nonprofits out there that need us to be successful so we can help them. And I'd love to know what your favorite charity and cause is. Let me know. Send me a message, because it's all about us helping more people as well as ourselves, our families, and people that matter to us in our immediate circle as well. So today I have a special woman coming on because I got to know her and her story and the pain that she was in, and now the pain that she solves for women because of her journey, because of her experience. And I find so many people this way that have an amazing business because of what they went through or what they're going through. So I want y'all to listen up real good, because you may be the next person that I interview, the next person that takes their obstacle, takes their situation, and turns it into the triumph that it needs to be. That you use your voice to let people hear what you've done and how you can help them. Because in essence, it's not about people being speakers and famous and on stages. It's about people like you, people like me, using our voice to help others, whether it's a few or whether it's millions. But the world needs to hear all our voices to help in any way we can. So I'm going to bring on a beautiful voice that's attached to a beautiful woman. This woman's name is LJ Johnson. She's a psychologist. She's a woman's hormone coach specializing in endometriosis, PCOS, and fibroids. LJ has worked in health, fitness, women's health industry for over 20 years while overcoming her own diagnosis of endometriosis. LJ's passion is to empower, motivate, and educate all women that they too can have quality of life despite their symptoms or diagnosis. I cannot wait for you to meet her. And here she comes, the beautiful LJ. Welcome to the show, LJ.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, pumped and ready to rock.
Oh, LJ, you're beautiful. It's my first time actually seeing you live and in video. This is as good as it gets these days, right? This is like actually being with somebody and doing the virtual hug. We know each other from audio apps and Clubhouse, and we see our pictures and hear our voices. But this is a great time for us to really, engage with each other. So, welcome to the show. And I'm so honored to bring you on, because this is a topic I knew the more you talked about it in Clubhouse, the more I realized there's women in pain and there's women that need hope. So, LJ, tell us a little bit about, your story and what your diagnosis was, how you dealt with it, and how you can help other women.
Right. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to say that first off, my journey began when I was 14 years old. Horrible pelvic pain, horrible period pain. It's something I dealt with forever. It took me 16 years to get diagnosed with endometriosis. And so what I want to do is actually define endometriosis, because many people don't know what it is, right? As women or anyone that has a uterus, we take that, hey, it's just part of our, being a woman, it's the pain that we go through. This is what it is. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. Just because we normalize it does not mean that we should accept that expectation. So endometriosis is uterine-like tissue that is found outside of the uterus. So I want you to stay with me on this one, because many times people think it's inside of the uterus, that it's a reproductive disease, and endometriosis is not. It is uterine-like tissue, I'll repeat it again, outside of the uterus, and that causes chronic systemic inflammation throughout your entire body. And so that is what I dealt with from the age of 14. When I say just pelvic pain is one thing, but I'm talking about when you're having a cycle and you're doubled over, you're, hemorrhaging, you're low anemia. I remember passing out when my period would come. I'd have horrible hot flashes at 14 and 15 years old, and I didn't know what was going on with my body. It was turmoil. It was literal turmoil in hell for years. And it was a long journey. I'm going to be honest. If you are an endo warrior, I definitely know my heart goes out to you. I've been there. But for me, it took me 16 years to get diagnosed with endometriosis. I had chronic pelvic pain, horribly debilitating periods. And really what happened is, at the beginning of my journey, it was just during my cycle, right? So as women, as a type A planner, I just kind of plan like, okay, this week, I'm not going to be able to do anything. Can't travel, can't be amazing, can't go to speaking engagements. It's 1 week of my world. I can deal with it once a month, right? Then it progressed to, okay, the week of my cycle and then the week before my cycle. So now I have 2 weeks out of the month where I'm like, okay, this is starting to get a little debilitating, right?
That's half your year. That's half your year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Half my year that I was MIA, couldn't show up in
Mhm.
horrible pain, living on painkillers, doing all of the things I could, right? Detoxing, doing everything, but nothing was bringing me any success. And so I spent, like you said, about half of my year. Then it progressed as it took the longer time to get my diagnosis. Like I said, that was 16 years of going to the doctor, being dismissed, people telling me it was all in my head, that I needed to see a psychiatrist, that, I was just, making it up. And so that was 16 years of that dealing
Is
with
this
and
hereditary, LJ? It's a similar story to mine because I was misdiagnosed for a year with all this pain. All the doctors saying it's nothing. So
right.
tell me, because the young girls are listening, some moms are listening, and so one, was this hereditary, or was this like out of the blue? Nobody's ever heard of it because I know it was 16 years ago. That,
Right.
that your mom, nobody had any idea that test her for this because I don't know anything about it. So educate us in that.
No, I appreciate that. Yes. So my mother had some womb wellness issues. She's the oldest of five girls. Everyone in her family had a hysterectomy. My mother chose not to, right?
Wow.
For my mother personally, she didn't really think it was that big of a deal. So when I was younger, I really didn't start going to the doctor, and actually verbalizing those concerns until I got older. Now, there's two sides of the camp. There are some genetic precursors that can be passed down. What I've seen in my practice, right, and just speaking for my practice, typically when there's womb wellness issues with the mom, they are passed down to the daughter. Now that comes in two different ways, right? And sometimes I like to get a little woo woo, but here's the deal. Sometimes those traumas that a parent is holding, that a mother is holding, is passed down to the daughter. And I know from my situation, that definitely what it was, right? There were some genetic precursors, but there are also some traumas that my mother had went through that she had not processed through, that got transferred to me, that I feel via utero. Most of the science says that endometriosis is in the body as a baby, like coming out of the womb, those lesions are there, right? So
Mm.
once again, just because genetics may, AKA load the gun, your
Yeah.
daily lifestyle habits is what pulls the trigger, right? So different things I was doing, like my nutrition, and some of those outside of my control, right? When you're 14 years old, your
Oh
mom's
yeah.
kind of, the lady of the house. You're kind of following her lead and growing and just learning your body. But there can be some genetic, precursors to that. So it was a really long journey. Like you said, many times you're dismissed. And so eventually I got my diagnosis. But by the time I got my diagnosis, that half year that we just talked about, by then I was in pain 24/7. 365. Every single
Wow.
day I was in pain. I would wake up in the morning and know that I had to wake up at a certain time so that I could, do XYZ, take the pain pill at 4 o'clock so you can be kind of revved up by 6, get the kids to school, maybe have to go back on the couch. Like, it was pain pill to pain pill, doctor's appointment to doctor's appointment. And that was my world for so many years.
Now, LJ, you said your five sisters or your five all had hysterectomies. Back
Yes,
up
on
on
my
that.
mother's
Why?
side.
I don't know if that's your personal talk about, but was that because of this endometriosis or something
So
else?
back then, they didn't get diagnosed with endometriosis. They just had horrible, bleeding, lots of fibroids, lots of pelvic pain. So whether or not they really had diagnosis of endometriosis, that's a good question. Now, that is actually a good point as well, because many people feel like, oh, if my mom has endo, then I'll have endometriosis. Or I have a daughter, right? She's 22. She could just be like, oh, my mom had really bad endo, I'm going to have endo. Not necessarily. The golden standard, and I really want you guys to grab this one, the golden standard to be diagnosed with endometriosis is via laparoscopic procedure, right? There's no ultrasound. There are some blood tests and other, precursors we can look at, but the laparoscopic procedure, where they actually go in and not just go in and come out and tell you like, hey, you got endo, but go in and actually biopsy those lesions. That is the golden standard to have it diagnosed. And then the golden standard to have it removed is excision surgery, right? Where they actually go in and cut those lesions out, right? So there's different procedures in between, right? Some people
Is
do an
that the
ablation.
cure?
Well, so this is the thing. There is no cure for endometriosis, right? So these are things you can do to manage your pain, to obtain quality of life. You can definitely remove the lesions. But even if you have excision surgery, I work with several surgeons, you have to make holistic lifestyle changes so that you can maintain that quality of life. Because if you have the excision surgery and you go back to eating a bunch of the processed food, you're not drinking the water, you're not supporting your hormones and doing these healthy things, for integrative health, it can send you back. And so many women have had, anyone with a uterus has had, excision surgery, and then they've had to return because they didn't make any of those lifestyle changes.
Wow. So you're telling me that undiagnosed, these doctors just said, let's give your sisters a hysterectomy. And they all just had hysterectomies because of the symptoms. And you're the first one to find out, oh, this can be changed. If that's the case, I'm so
Right.
glad, even more so, that you're on this show right now so we can educate. So no unnecessary surgeries have to be done.
Absolutely. Yes. And it was a journey. And I have to be honest, me and Dr. Google, as I look at my laptop,
Dr. Google.
me and Dr. Google basically did all the research. I tell people right now why I'm so passionate. I'm giving myself chills right now is because some of my best research was done at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, right? And it's not because I'm a night owl, but when you're in pain, everyone else is watching Netflix and TV, honey, you're searching. And back then I didn't have Clubhouse and Instagram and all of these, great networks. I was on babycenter.com in the forums talking to other moms, asking like, hey, what's going on? I'm having these issues. I did a lot of research and I'll never, ever forget. And I've searched my old computer. I wish I could find it, but someone made a post and she was talking about PCOS, which led me down that rabbit trail. And that's when I remember going into the doctor. I printed off all those papers. Back then we weren't saving trees, right? We printed all those papers off. I went into the doctor and I was just like, I think this is me. And I never forget, they were like, yeah, you may be onto something. So then we started down that path, but I have to be honest. And that's one tip I will give you. You have to be proactive. This is your body. You know your health. No matter what is going on, no matter what anyone tells you, if you feel like something is off, you have to keep advocating for yourself. And I know it's hard. Trust me, when you're in pain and you're in a pain flare, or maybe someone's listening to this today and they're like, I'm in pain and this sounds all great. LJ, you got me hyped up. Where do I start, right? Reach out to me. Let's make a connection. But advocating for yourself is key, because if I didn't keep searching for answers, I would have just stayed on the birth control. I would have just stayed in medically induced menopause. I would have just kept doing all these little procedures. Another procedure a lot of people do with endometriosis is the ablation, right? And basically they're just going inside of your uterus and burning the lining and things like that. That doesn't get rid of endometriosis, right? Endometriosis are deep-seated, infiltrating lesions. You need to have an excision surgery to really go in there and remove those. So I did all of those things. And so that is why I do what I do today. Not that I don't trust allopathic medicine. I think it's amazing and it has done amazing things for me. But for me, I tried all the pills, potions, and lotions, as I say, and it did not give me the results that I needed.
Well, LJ, I just put up your website right now. If people are listening and not watching on the video, it's LJS, like Sam, powerhouse.org. It's LJSpowerhouse.org. Tell us now, because you've been through this journey, which again, so many people have been through journeys similar, but this one is, I feel so bad. 5 hysterectomies when, just like that was just like the cure. Okay, you're in pain, or your birth control pills, or this or that. Seems, especially with women's health, that doctors, it's so easy to just put it off. It's just that time of the month. Get used to it.
Yes.
It's just your normal pain. Get used to it. And there's so much more. So please tell us, if somebody's listening or watching and this is them, or this is their daughter, or this is their mother or their sister, what do you do now? How did this start your business? Because in Get Celebritized, we talk about now turning your passions or your tragedies and triumphs into the business to helping others, or into nonprofits, because I have a lot of nonprofit founders on my show as well. So tell us now that turning point, what you do now to help others and how they can get in touch with you.
My biggest turning point, as we talk about those hysterectomies that were previously in my family, the biggest turning point for me, and I know some people, when they start their nonprofit and their business, they're like, I just wanted to change the world. I wanted to change the world, but I have to be very honest and transparent. I was being selfish. I needed to save myself, right? I was a single parent raising 2 children. And if I get emotional, it's just because I'm in it. Like, it was debilitating, right? I can just feel like it just welling up in me. It was changing my world. I couldn't raise my children. I'd have text friends and neighbors to take my kids to the park. The park was only 3 homes down, right? It wasn't like they were going anywhere huge. I had no quality of life. I had scheduled a hysterectomy because I had tried everything under the sun, was not getting results. And I had the hysterectomy scheduled, but the thing was, is they couldn't get me in for 6 or 7 months. So I literally sat down one day and I was like, I remember taking off work. I'm like, not going into the office. I have got to find a solution, right? Like, what can I do to dump, I need to make enough income for a year, basically, right? Because I'm like, I'm going to have, to recover. So I need to make, money to survive for 6 months and then 6 more months more of income. So I was like, what do I do to get my income right? I need to develop, I need to get this pain under control so I can get everything ready before my surgery. And that was the turning point, because the lifestyle changes that I made, and those are the same things I do with my patients and clients right now, working with your nutrition. I had to change my fitness. I had to change my mindset, right? When we're talking about toxicity, everyone wants to do a detox pill, a detox, remedy, but it's
Magic
like
pill.
get away from toxic people. I had to change my mindset. I had to do a
Ooh,
integrative
LJ, go
approach.
back. Go back. You said
Yes,
something. Give it
ma'am.
up. Who and what?
Rotate.
What was
Yes.
that? Rewind.
Mindset. I'm telling you right now, when you're dealing with chronic pain and chronic illness, your mindset has to be one of a warrior. Now, is it easy when you're in pain? No. Is it easy when you're in pain all the time and you're trying to get things done? Is it easy when you're getting rode up at work? Let's talk real talk, because you're not making it into the office. You're trying to explain to HR. You're trying to tell them it's your period pain, and they're kind of like, well, every other woman's coming to work, and you're like,
Good luck
no,
with that.
mine's a little different, right? So in that time, you have to have a support system. And so I had to make a ton of changes. And that is what started my business, because I had been traveling the world telling people, eat 6 times a day, rev up your metabolism, do this for your hormones, this, that, and the other. And suddenly, in all good consciousness, that stopped working for me, right? So I'm like, I'm not going to travel the world and tell you to do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3 when it's not working for myself.
Yeah.
So what I did was I brought myself back and just scrapped everything, changed my mindset, put the old mindset of restricting the calories to lose weight, doing all of these things. And I had to start from ground zero. And that is where I had perfected and really brought out my programming. I mean, we're talking about gut health. I have to be honest, when you're in an endoflare and your entire body is in pain, you've got a migraine and you're vomiting and you're nauseous and the world is spinning, you're not thinking about gut health. You're thinking, what is the first pill or the first thing I can do to turn off this, this cinching pain so that I can go to work today, so that I can cook dinner for my children. And so I really work with you so that we can, transition you off birth control if needed. Sometimes you need a transition on birth control, working with those nutrient deficiencies. When you're dealing with endometriosis specifically, there's a lot of food allergies, right? Another thing people don't realize is as your hormones go up and down, so do your food allergies, right? So sometimes you've got food allergies, food sensitivities. So I really take everything and integrate it together so that you can have the best quality of life, right? Because like we said earlier, there is no cure, but you can have quality of life, but you have to make some changes.
LJ, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and sharing your pains and your suffering and your enlightenment as well. And I want to take it a step further for the last few minutes of this episode and this show, because it's so important people are able to know. So there's women listening right now, and you have this wealth of knowledge. So walk us through in a few minutes what it looks like to work with you. Like, do you work with women on like a year basis or a month basis, or is this a journey that you get them started in like a group fashion for 2 weeks and then they're on their own? Tell us a little bit of how this works and how you work with them. And then I'm going to put your website up here again. Tell them exactly what they need to do to get in touch with you, to start the ball rolling and start the conversation.
That is a great question. So if you guys go to my website, there's going to be this cute little pop-up that comes up. Book that free discovery call. That's typically the first step. I know for me, this is my passion project, right? It's not just about money. So I really love to connect with you and make sure you're a good fit, right? Make sure you're willing to do the work, because this is work, right? We're going to be teaming together at the hip for 3 to 6 months. Sometimes, a couple of years, checking in every couple of months. So what I like to do is start with that 10 to 15 minute discovery call to make sure I'm the right fit for you, right? Once we do that, I like to also do testing, right? Testing rather than guessing. And here's the thing, when people have endometriosis, they're like, well, I don't need any testing. I already have the diagnosis. There's no cure. But let me tell you, your hormones are playing a huge role, right? And sometimes we put that in the back of our mind because we have the diagnosis, but we need to see where your hormones are at. So I like to do some testing, see where you're at so that I can actually recommend nutrition and supplements.
What kind of testing?
Right?
When you
So
say you do testing?
Yes. So it's rather than blood testing for your hormones, I do a Dutch test. So that's dried urine testing that really looks at your hormones, and not just your hormones, right? So it's not going to just tell you, oh, they're good, they're bad. It's going to tell you how your liver is processing. Are you detoxifying?
Ooh.
Because when you are dealing with endometriosis, PCOS, or fibroids, right? Any type of womb wellness issue, whether or not your bowels are moving, your liver is supporting you. Your liver is your master detoxifier. If
Yeah.
your body is not showing up and showing out, that will come to me and the Dutch test and help us build that protocol, right? Sometimes it's the smallest things, right? You think you're detoxing your liver because you picked up an amazing supplement, and then maybe I go into your Dutch panel and I'm like, oh, that supplement is, supporting this phase of your liver, but it's not supporting phase 2 and 3. And those could be those small pieces, right? Many
Wow.
times we try to DIY our own healing
Oh,
protocol.
yeah.
All the time. We
Now,
do
how do
our
they get that
recommendation.
test? Yeah. Now, is that test something you send to them to their home, or how do they get
Yes.
that test?
I send that directly to your home. You do that in the privacy of your home. You send it in. The lab gets everything done for us. We get the results, and then I work up your protocol. So you
I love
leave
that.
the
Wow.
coaching with the blueprint, right? It's not cookie cutter coaching. You don't sign up for my coaching and get a bunch of emails I wrote 5 years ago.
I love it.
Really delve into what's going on with you, right? So that's my one-on-one coaching. Now, some people, they're like, I'll do the testing, but I don't want to do the 3-6 month commitment. So another thing I do is I have my hormone rebalance bundle where you can do the hormone testing, and then we do a 90-minute session to really build out that protocol. And then once you have that blueprint, we can follow up every 1 to 3 months, right? Everyone's journey is different. Many of you right now have had your surgeries postponed for because of what's going on in the world right now. So maybe you haven't been able to get in for your procedure, or possibly you're on birth control because your doctor's backed up. So those are things that we can still work with. And so I encourage you to definitely book that discovery call. So I do the one-on-one coaching, I have the hormone rebalance, and then I do some amazing seminars as well. So either way, join the mailing list, do the discovery call, because there's so much value that I give.
LJ, just talking to you and hearing you speak, it makes me feel like all the women listening will have a friend. They'll really have a friend say, hey, I've been through that. I feel your pain. This is what worked for me. Instead of just, like you said, throwing you into emails you wrote 5 years ago. Here's a group. Here's this. I love that you customize it. I love that it's so low key. I love that you can have a lot of you or a little of you, because especially with women, we all learn differently. We all need a little bit, all need a lot of things different. And I could see people just, not wanting to talk fully always about this. They want just a little piece of you. They want to test you out and see if you bond. And all of a sudden they just want it all. But you're willing to let them take that journey with, throwing yourself on them and saying, here, this is what it is, and come, and it's all this big stuff, because this is a very intimate conversation. This is intimate pain. And you said it in the beginning, LJ. Women have been dismissed way too long for period cramps. Even if it is just period cramps, that, oh, well, everybody else comes in with it. Everybody handles pain differently. And even if it's not endometriosis and it's just that time of the month pain, if you can't handle it, there's a woman or a young girl and it debilitates them for a day or a week, then it does. And people need to stop dismissing that. Well, so-and-so came in, I have a high tolerance for pain. I can make it in. But when I had chemo, I was done. I was throwing up 18 times a day, couldn't keep a job if I had to. And I know other people that have chemo and they make it into work. We're all made differently.
Everyone's body is so different.
Really is. So with that, your last words, what do you want the women, the moms, the girls, and even the guys listening, what do you want them to know as we close up this episode? That's been amazing. We're going to have you back.
Yes, I love this. It's been quick. It went by so quick.
I know, it goes too fast.
I know, right? It's just, you get in it. The biggest thing I would say is you can have quality of life despite your diagnosis, right? But you need to team up with someone. May it be myself. Obviously, I'd love to work with you or anyone else, but you need to have a support system, because so many times when we think about menstrual health and women's health, we forget that our menstrual health is a vital sign, right? So it's a vital sign. Your body is kicking back check engine lights, right? So you need to remember that. And you also need to know it's okay to ask for help, right? It is okay to prioritize yourself. It is okay to know that, okay, I have a diagnosis of endometriosis, but also have that mindset where I can still have a kick butt life. I can still have quality of life, have family, have relationships, have a career. You need to know that. And there's a lot of mindset work that goes into that. But I want you to know that you can have quality of life, because so many times you get the diagnosis, you hear there's no cure, and you kind of throw your hands up, right? And you're just like, it is what it is. But I'm telling you, at 42 years old, I have never been healthier. Yes, I'm still on my healing journey. Nothing is perfect. But at 42, I'm in a great place in my life. And I want to help you get there as well.
And you look amazing and healthy
Thank
and
you.
fit. And if nothing else, too, by doing that, look how more healthy you got and how more
Right.
energized you got. Because as we get older, it tends to we lose that. But now we're seeing more and more women 40 and over. And hey, I just love my women 40 and over. I won my Emmy Award at 48. I went through all the good stuff and the getting better after 40. That's when we really get our jam if we let it, if we take care of ourselves. And you're such a great example of that. I hope everybody calls you that's dealing with this or knows somebody that's dealing with this. You are so approachable. You're so kind. You're such a great listener. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're not watching it on our television show stations, it's ljspowerhouse.org. ljspowerhouse.org. Tap in, go to her website, see the pink pop up. Put in the information for yourself or a friend, a mom, a daughter, because this is an important conversation to have. LJ, I'm so glad I met you over on Clubhouse.
Thank you. I know.
Conversation has always intrigued me because we always get little pieces of each other, right? And not the whole thing. I said, you really need to come on and you really need to talk to the world. So on our last note, business-wise, and Get Celebritized, I love for my guests to give us one business success tip, whether it's something you learned from falling on your face or whether you learned it from a coach or whatever it is. Give us one great success tip because you're an entrepreneur and that's not easy.
My biggest tip is stay consistent, right? That passion project, the reason you started your business, that why is still there. Do not let the small setbacks during the week, during the month, through the quarter make you throw in the towel, right? Remember your why and stay with your passion and stay consistent.
I love that. LJ, great advice. Stay in it, know your why. And your why has to be really big. And it has to be your why. Nobody else's and not something, well, if it doesn't happen, it's okay. It can't be, it has to be like end all be all. It has to be all in for sure. And if it doesn't happen, there is no plan B. It's got to be that big, that big stuff. So LJ, you're a perfect fit for this show. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on Get Celebritized, where we help people earn more so they can live more, so they can give back more, and so they can be pain-free now because of you, LJ. Thank you so much. Look her up. Look us both up, Aurea McGarry and LJ Johnson on Clubhouse. We talk about important issues all the time. Follow us over there and be happy to pull you in to free, engaging conversation where you can learn a lot. So LJ, thank you again. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Until next time on Get Celebritized. Bye for now. Bye, LJ.
Bye.